Welcome to M Go Bucks. Thank you for joining us. We are here just a day after the big game between Notre Dame and Ohio State. The green unlucky jerseys strike again. Matt, please tell me how you're feeling today. It must be like a feeling of complete and total jubilee.
Yeah, I mean, it feels just about as good as when Rutgers was leading 7-0 against Michigan. And, sort of the same feeling from that. And unfortunately, I didn't get to see what happened after they took the early lead.
Yeah,
Not sure if they were able to hold on.
they crossed the
But
50 a couple times. I'll give them that. But they didn't.
yeah,
They didn't
I
score any
was I
more
was
points.
legitimately concerned for Michigan after that hot start. I mean, they had like a huge pass, and then they shut Michigan down initially, and I was like, "Wow, what's going on?"
You
Um,
know, I
so
was wrong in my text yesterday. I said, "Oh, this because I wasn't watching at the time. I had an event, but I was like, oh, the entire secondary, none of the starters are starting, but they actually all did. I think even Rod Moore started too, but Will Johnson was in there. I can't remember
mhm,
who that pass was against, but it didn't happen again. So it was Rutgers. Their
yeah.
offense is terrible, so they couldn't. They just basically got lucky at the beginning. But all right, we're not here to talk about Rutgers, Matt. We're here to talk about you and how you feel today after what happened last night.
Well, from the negative comments I was hearing from you and everyone else on the text chain, the team seems to be the big problem is our run defense was not elite. I would say that the weird thing is, so the first half, our run defense was pretty good, especially the first quarter, and they weren't really able to do anything, especially their starter. But their backup running backs had a little bit of success in the second half. I felt like they were almost unstoppable. It was to the point where anything that wasn't a run by them seemed like a dumb play.
Yeah, they were touting at one point, the announcers, that like 5 running backs had run already in the first quarter. Like what
Yeah.
is that? Yeah,
But
it
I
was
was I
really
was I
rough.
was pretty happy about the first half, especially with the defense. We were doing, like everyone was. Ohio State fans were upset at Jim Knowles last year because we were super aggressive on defense and we gave up lots of big plays in big games. And so he was doing this bend but don't break, and they were getting 2-3 yard runs, and then they were getting those 7 yard passes. That tight end was getting so many 7 yard passes over the middle that we just constant first downs with the short passing game. But eventually, we were able to bow up and hold them in the red zone. They couple fourth downs we held on, and then they missed a field goal, and we ended up getting a field goal. But it was very John Cooper-esque on offense, also by Ohio State, because our red zone, like again, it seems like the big concerns for Ohio State are short yardage again. That's to be assumed with a young offensive line. Three of the positions are new starters. So we have some young offensive line, a young quarterback trying to gel, and unfortunately that's really affecting the short yardage. And then overall,
Whoa.
I would say,
Timeout. Short yardage has been a problem before your inexperienced offensive line, and third down. And I believe that was an issue last year and the year before too. But you're right though on the defense. I totally agree that you can't complain about 0 points in the first half, right? I mean, even if they did run the ball a little bit.
yeah, I mean they at the end it made it feel worse than it was in the second half because they were able to run so effectively towards the end. And it feels like maybe our guys were getting a little bit tired, and I don't know. I mean, we seem to have a decent rotation, but I guess maybe only two defensive tackles were good, and maybe the other guys were just not good enough depth wise to be able to, that's, I guess the other hard part is how much of it was defensive scheme. I'm guessing more of it was players and scheme, because we know that they're running almost every play. And if we can't, I'm sure there's it didn't look like it was anything too spectacular with their running plays. I mean, they did have like the ones where they have two running backs out there and one would block, and you'd fake a handoff to one and hand it to the other. A couple of those got us early. But at the end, it seemed just pretty methodical that they were able to just run down our throats, and we couldn't really stop it. Um, but man, that last drive by Kyle McCord at the end was just phenomenal. Like it shouldn't even have been that. Like at the end of the third quarter, we had like a third and long, and Emeka made a big third down conversion So we would have had the ball like at the 25-yard line, winning with the ball, almost into the red zone, at least to get another field goal because of our awful red zone. But they called this, the right tackle pancaked somebody and they called a 15-yard penalty. So not only did we have to, kill the drive, but, your third down and your third down conversion is taken off, and then you also are moved back another 15 yards for the personal foul. And they said that the personal foul was during the play, so it just negated it and took 15 yards off. So it's an absolute drive killer. I mean, that right there, you get that drive going, get points at the end of that instead of having to punt, and it's a different ball game.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever seen a pancake that they call personal foul for a pancake block?
Usually when they're pulling them down, yeah.
Not pulling him down. He was just on top of him, and then it's just a pancake block. It wasn't an illegal block. They said it was a personal foul. So
it seemed like it seemed egregious when I looked at it at the time, but I'd have to go back and look at it to get a good feel for it. But yeah, I mean, like Notre Dame seemed to be moving the ball just fine, like between the 20s. And it maybe was kind of a bend but don't break. And I do remember the Notre Dame play. Do you remember the 4th and 1 that they took off the board and basically made it a turnover for Ohio State? Sam Hartman ran on 4th and 1, and they gave it to him. And they overturned it. Like, I didn't even see their logic. We just came back from commercial break and say, "Oh, well, if you're back, they overturned it." It's like
he held. I
mean, not that I actually wanted Notre Dame to win.
Yeah.
But by the way, I don't want.
He would have held the ball in the other hand. It would have been a first down. He went out of bounds. The ball went out of bounds right before the yard marker. So that was a dumb play on his part, but really good defense too. Like at key moments, it seemed like our defense. Yeah, obviously they run the ball 3 times. They waste our last time out, and most likely we lose. Yeah, they had lots of stupid penalties that not penalties, but stupid plays at the end of that game that cost them. But it was really nice that the best thing is you can make mistakes and do a few bad things and then still win the game, and then you have 2 weeks to work on it now. That's the good thing about that. And we were concerned, how is Cal McCord going to step up? And he really showed out in that last drive. Making some really clutch throws.
I was really impressed with him. I thought especially that last drive, I thought he made some awesome throws in that game. He made boneheaded throws too. Boneheaded plays, but I mean, he's a new starter, so he's going to do that. He's on the road at Notre Dame, top 10 team. I was totally impressed with Kyle McCord.
He had a dozen pressures, a dozen hurries, but 0 sacks. So like he had a lot of people in his face, but he never got tackled. So that was pretty impressive. He really only had the one. He had maybe 2 plays that were real risky. Like he had the one where he was sort of hit and threw a duck, and the tight end somehow came down with it. Mm-hmm. And then the other issue was he had one on the last drive where he threw it to a Notre Dame like linebacker or corner or something was jumping up and just went through the tips of his hands. But I don't know how close that was.
Yeah, and Brian says Penn State and Michigan are licking their chops like a rabid dog right now. That's very true. I think. I mean, what is it? 2 weeks from now, Ohio State plays Penn State at home, right? I think that's going to be a great game. I really don't know who's going to win that game, but Penn State's better than Notre Dame. I know that. And I will say something, like, as good as Kyle McCord was, and the many props that I'm giving him on that, if CJ Stroud was the quarterback, it wouldn't have been that close, that game. I think that he would have just drilled it. So, I mean,
of course,
I just don't know. Kyle McCord's a lot better than I thought he was. I'm still not sure how good he's going to be in the 2 games that matter. I think Buckeyes are going to be absolutely fine throughout, except for maybe those 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is we have our defense is holding it together while the young quarterback gets it going, and Travion Henderson is looking really good this year. I don't know about 3 picks. I mean, even the one on the last drive where it went through the guy's hands, it's not like it went through like right here. He was jumping up and it like hit off the tip of the fingers. Like that was not like I almost caught it interception.
I remember being pretty close. But
Yeah, it was close, but it wasn't like he dropped it. Like it tipped off his fingertips. But yeah, the only one that definitely should have maybe been a pick was the one where the tight end, like where he got sort of hit as he threw, and then it just sort of it was a complete duck in the air, and like anyone could have caught it, but the tight end caught it. That was the only like 50-50. Like who knows what would have happened with that one. That was But again, like is that his fault? He got nailed as he was throwing it. That's the offensive line's fault.
yeah, and the offensive line, I think. Speaking of that, do you remember the last play on that? It wasn't the last play. It was just that fourth and was it 13 that Kyle McCord converted to Emeka Ibuka the very end to win the game. I think it was 4th and 13, if I'm not wrong. I might be wrong.
No.
It was 4th and a mile. But
yeah, he threw like a 25-yard pass to him. That was crazy.
Notre Dame only rushed 3. I noticed that right when I saw it. I was like, why are they only rushing 3? They're just going to give McCord a bunch of time to find awesome wide receivers. That was such a boneheaded move by them.
Well, I don't know. I mean, sometimes having max defense
only
back there, having a ton of defensive backs for a young, it goes either way. Either you have a lot of pressure, or you have a ton of guys just sitting back and hoping that the quarterback screws up one way or the other. I mean, going by the stats coming into the game, his weakness was pressure, and they were trying to get pressure, and they only really got to him a couple of times where it was really iffy. But for the most part, the pass defense was much better than the run defense or run blocking. The run blocking, we had one big run from Travion that almost took out Marvin Harrison, and then other than that, we had 2.5 yards to carry the rest of the game to take that run out. So it was iffy.
Yeah, it was. Brian's right. It was some weird play calling there at the end by Notre Dame. I think they kind of choked. I'm completely blaming it on their jerseys. That all green. They weren't even just green on top and gold on the bottom. They were all green. They went all in on the unluckiness on that. But yeah, I thought it was great. I thought Kyle McCord did good. I was impressed with him on how he performed. I mean, I think that basically means Ohio State is not going to lose any games unless it's to Michigan or Penn State. And heck, we don't even know what's going to happen in those games. But
don't forget the next game is Maryland, and they're undefeated.
Yeah. Oh, is Ohio State playing Maryland next?
Yeah.
Maryland. They had Notre Dame, Maryland, and Penn State. Wow, that's actually a pretty awesome slate.
Yeah. Well, the weird thing is, so I've been to a couple of Maryland games already against Charlotte and against UVA, who are two of the worst teams in the country. And Maryland was down 14-0 against both those teams early before they ended up blowing them out. They're just one of those weird teams where you don't think that they're that good, but then they end up, getting 35 to 42 points by the end, even though it doesn't look pretty. So it's hard to say with them.
True. And with Shea Patterson. Oh, wow, Brian, you're going way back there.
Shea Patterson was trash. Come on. You think he's that bad? No. It's like his 4th start, and he was doing that. Notre Dame secondary was really good. I can't remember the last time I've seen a secondary as good as theirs in any of the games we played.
You can give someone is to call them Shea Patterson.
We just played Georgia in the playoffs, and their secondary was trash compared to this Notre Dame secondary. I mean, it's unbelievable how good they were. They had guys on us the entire game, and they were playing really good.
Yeah. Marvin Harrison Jr., there were no touchdown passes, right?
No.
There were no touchdown passes. Not for Ohio State. Notre Dame threw one touchdown pass. But I mean,
yeah,
let's talk about
the Tressel 2002 year right now. I mean, we're having the close games with running game and good defense. That works for me.
So let's talk about that last drive by Notre Dame a little bit. So it's pretty obvious they should not have gimmicked around, and then JTT came around and made a play. And then they went for a screen pass that wasn't going to take any time off the board if it was incomplete. So that
was almost an interception for a touchdown again.
Yeah. I mean, granted,
then
it's genius, right? But still.
No, I don't think so. I think that was the worst play of the game right there. I think that was worse than 10 players on the field for the last 2 plays.
Okay, talk about
running it those 3 times.
See that? I just saw a text that you sent about that. Explain what happened with 10 guys on the field for Notre Dame.
So it was the last 2 plays, not the last play. So there was 3rd down and 1 or whatever, and they threw it to Marvin, and just good coverage. And then on 4th down, their defensive end was missing. It wasn't like it was like a linebacker or corner or something. Like one of the guys on the line. So Al Washington, who was the coach for the defensive line, and he played at Michigan before we snagged him, and then he was horrible for us. And that guy, he's helped us beat Michigan, and he helped us again last night for Notre Dame. But thank God he's not with Ohio State anymore, because it was his. I don't know if they have a quality control. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of people that are in charge of that, but it's his line, and there was only 3 defensive linemen there, and they just ran where the 4th guy was supposed to be.
Oh my. That's coaching. From a coaching standpoint, that's like unforgivable. That's just.
And the crazy thing was,
I'm
pretty sure that they would have stopped us too, because we barely got that, and that was with a missing guy that we ran at the spot where there was a missing guy. So had they had their normal defensive linemen out there that they've had the whole game, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have got it.
Well, maybe. I mean, I have heard that Ohio State is, not great at
short. Yeah, Freeman was completely had no idea what was going on. He's saying in the media that, we weren't allowed to substitute, because if we did, we would have had a penalty against us. But number one, even if that was true, which it isn't, because we substituted, so he was allowed to. He's just saying that because he's just trying to make an excuse. But what would the penalty be? It would be like, instead of 4th and goal on the 1, it would be 4th and goal on the half. You lose a foot on the penalty. So what would you rather have, it a foot closer, or 11 guys on your defense? Obviously, you want that that extra person. So it was just and it's not like they just did it once. They did it 2 times. So that was just unbelievable that you do that 2 times and not realize it either time. But again, still, both of those plays weren't as bad as the decision not to run 3 times on their last drive. That was, absolute bonehead play. We'd had 0 timeouts and less time on the clock. It's just
0 timeout. Yeah, it was pretty boneheaded. And let's talk about that play for the Buckeyes right before the 3 boneheaded plays by Notre Dame. So they did a jet sweep to Emeka Egbuka on the 1-yard line and tried to get outside. I just rolled around laughing. You
know what's funny? I hear all these people saying that was one of the worst plays. If you look at our offense trying to get short yardage, I don't necessarily know if that play, we ran that play earlier in the game and it worked for like 8 yards. And it's not like we're getting a push up the middle. I think your best option on third and 1 or 4th and 1 is to throw a pass, do a reverse, do a naked bootleg, do anything other than run up the middle, because we aren't getting it up the middle against them. So I'm fine with doing something other than running up the middle. But I think what they should have done is quarterback sneak. I don't know why. I don't even know if they've done a quarterback sneak all year. In the NFL, they just Jalen seems to just do that every time, and I don't think it's ever been stopped. But he's unusually strong, being able to squat 550 pounds. But I don't understand why we can't get 1 yard on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. You have 2 plays to just push your quarterback a yard. You can't do that with a 6'4" quarterback. Come on.
Yeah, it seems pretty silly. I don't know what Ohio State's problem is, but they're not better in the middle of their offensive line this year. So I get it. But they did the right thing when they won the game. They ran right up the middle. But yeah, it's interesting. So let's talk about our score predictions, because I was way out and you were better. Remind me what your score prediction was on the last.
I was 28-24 because I figured it wouldn't be as high scoring, but it was even worse than I thought.
Yeah, you were pretty bad too. I was 34-17 with the Buckeyes winning 34. I thought Marvin Harrison would get going in this game.
Yeah,
despite everything. That was my prediction. I really thought that. So
Micah had
how do you feel about
other than his touchdown drop
right now? I got to get your feeling you get to play Maryland and Penn State in the next couple games. How does this game translate to those? What do you think? Are you feeling better about those games now, or are you feeling worse? Because I don't really think an argument for both.
For some reason, Maryland always plays us close, but I'm still not worried about them. I just think that their offensive and defensive lines are not very good from what I saw watching them. So, because of that, I'm not worried at all about Maryland. But, obviously, the Penn State defense, I think, might even be a little bit better than Michigan's defense. I mean, their defense looks really good. But I mean, both Penn State and Michigan look really good on defense, and that's obviously the biggest concern. But I'm confident because our running game, running backs anyway, look pretty good. I think our biggest weakness really is just a young offensive line that's trying to gel, and I think you give them a few more weeks to get going. I'm guessing that'll pick up. I think the offensive passing will pick up. Now that Kyle McCord has more experience, and especially winning a big game on the road at night against a top 10 team, that's huge for confidence. So just getting more experience and stuff like that, it's going to be really helpful for everybody. I think really like one of the biggest concerns going into the year, again, was left tackle and right tackle, and then I wasn't as worried about defense. I know you were saying you were still, show me. I'm not going to believe it till I see it. I'm still concerned with the fact that we play a whole game against Notre Dame. Now, granted, it's against us, it was a mostly running and short passing attack. So it's hard to get sacks when it's a short passing and run. I mean, I don't even know if they even attempted a long pass, 15 yards. Do they have anything longer than 10 or 15 yards? I don't think so.
Did something, but those receivers are not very good at Notre Dame.
No.
They look like tight ends. They're lumbering. When they're running,
well, their tight ends were pretty good. But anyway, my big concern.
Their receivers look like tight ends, though. So here's the thing, though. Here's what I was concerned with towards the end. I was thinking, wow. So Ohio State can't stop the run, even when there's really no threat from the receivers. So, what's it going to be when a Penn State, who's balanced, can come to town and actually take care of that?
I don't know. I don't think Penn State has excellent receivers either. They have one guy that's pretty good, but their receiving, I don't think their offense is that good.
I think they've got one guy that's really good. I can't remember his name right now. And their other receivers are serviceable, but none of them are bad like Notre Dame's are. Notre Dame has the two starting receivers are just really big and slow. They did great against terrible competition. But Buckeyes they didn't even try to get the ball to them. They were running the ball.
I mean, against Iowa, the biggest catch of the day was 16 yards.
Oh wow!
I mean, I'm telling you, they don't. And then their running backs, Katron Allen 3.4 yards a carry, Singleton 2.9 yards a carry. I mean, I know Iowa has a good defense. God knows their offense stinks, but but it's been like that all year. Like their running backs are not that good. And
wait a minute, whose running backs are not that good?
Penn State, they're just average this year. They're just good. They're like under 4 yards a carry.
No, Katron Allen is awesome. You need to look him up. The other running back is going to be just fine. I think that Donovan Edwards is kind of falling for this too. I think they just need to play someone worth a damn.
So hold on. So Katron Allen for the season is 4.4 yards a carry.
Is he that
32 yards? Yeah. And then the other one, Nicholas Singleton for the year is 3.8 yards. I'm telling you, these are average running backs. If you're in college and you're not getting 6 to 8 yards a carry, you're not elite. I mean, getting 4 yards. I mean, they're not even getting. One of them is under 4 yards a carry. That's pathetic. And the other one's just barely over 4 yards a carry. That's not elite. And everyone likes their quarterback. I mean, he threw for 166 yards. He had 4 touchdown passes, but 166 yards is not for 37 attempts for 166 yards. That's really bad.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
So again, I don't see Penn State scoring a lot on us. I think that we're going to have a real hard time scoring against them too. But I think our offense matches up better than their offense against our defense. So really, it's just going to come down to, and that's a home game too. So it's like a 1-game season at this point.
Brian, OSU has the worst run game of the 3. Who do you think?
Our run game is better than Penn State. Look at the Penn State running game. It's trash. Our running game is way better than theirs. Come on. Now, I agree, Michigan has the best running game. but Penn State doesn't. Not this year.
We'll see when they play Ohio State, because it seems like everyone has success against Ohio State. That D line is not what it's cracked up to be. I mean, I came in being a little skeptical. Second year in a row now, I've heard there's been improvement. I'm sure there probably is improvement in the secondary, but if that's not translating to the run game, that's not good. Because if you're having a pretty good secondary with Iggy back there, who seems like he's actually he's going to be an NFL corner. It looks like.
I didn't hear Denzel Burke's name called once the whole game. I don't think they even threw to him.
Because he was just bobbing and weaving along with those tight end / receivers they've got. You didn't hear much at all from the secondary because Notre Dame didn't even try because they're bad. But they were still able to move the ball up and down the field quite a bit in that first half. If they hadn't gotten dinged with that 4th and 1 call that was reversed, I mean, they may have at least gotten 3 points.
Well, they had another 4th down that we stepped them on too for like a loss of a couple yards. We had a couple of big 4th downs.
Yeah, I'll have to go back, Brian, and look at that too, because it looks like he's saying 65 yards against Youngstown State. Excuse me. Yeah, like outside of that one Travion run, which you can't really take out, but if you do take it out, we have to go back and actually see what that was.
Yeah, I don't get concerned about like the early games like that because, our team has been getting better every game, and I mean, even though we didn't score, I feel like overall like the balance was still there. Like we were running it a lot, even though the yards per carry weren't there. We did make a huge play for a touchdown on the running game. We got a game-winning touchdown on the running game, and the passing game made clutch plays on 3rd and 4th down when we needed it. And you got 265 yards passing. That's really good against. I mean, that Notre Dame defense. They were all over the place in the secondary. They looked. Again, I'm trying to remember the last time we played a secondary that good. It's been a long time.
Thanks, Brian. Trey had 43 yards on 13 carries. That's not good either.
Yeah,
but Trey always does seem like he's good for one massive run.
Yeah,
he did that against Penn State last year too. So games at Ohio
State.
I
mean, those are game-winning runs. You can't. I mean, that 65-yarder that was potentially game-winning run. If we didn't have that, we don't win.
I thought Ohio State was going to do so much better in this game, though. I thought
the passing game, like Marvin got shut down somehow, so they need to do a better job of getting him the ball. That was the biggest issue.
Yeah, that
offense.
They couldn't stop Ibuka though. I mean, they did occasionally, but they had to pick their poison. So
I don't think he was stopped at all. Like he dropped a touchdown. That wasn't a defensive play. He just dropped it. But other than that, like he caught everything. He was really good.
Boy, yeah, the Buckeyes they stole a win out of there. I mean, they had to work to do it and make awesome plays, but it was a thievery.
Yeah, no, I agree. They definitely stole victory from defeat. That was
it was
not all us. They had plenty of stupid mistakes on their end.
Oh yeah, it was impressive that last drive. I don't want to discount for Kyle McCord because everyone's been on him. It
was a little bit of both. We had some good plays. They had some good plays, and then they definitely had some screw ups at the end. Like their last 2 minutes was not very flawless football.
Yeah, that's good. They definitely did the Buckeyes some favors. But so what does this mean for the rest of the year? So the Buckeyes beat Notre Dame in very close fashion. Could have lost. I don't know what this means for Penn State because I feel like I don't even know how good Penn State is yet. The best team they've played is probably West Virginia or Iowa. The best defense they played was Iowa. But Iowa's offense is again just so abysmal. You can't even. It's difficult. Yeah. It's difficult to tell. So I'm looking forward to that game. That's going to be a bigger game. I'll bet that'll be game day. It'll be the second game day for the Buckeyes, depending on what else is playing, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, they only beat Illinois 30-13. That wasn't very impressive either.
Yeah, Illinois got a good defense though too. So how does this game how does it make you feel about? I know it's far away. How does it make you feel about playing Michigan and going to Michigan?
Well,
I think better about.
Yeah. I think the quarterback and offensive situation. I feel like by the end of the year, it's going to be much better, assuming that there's just assuming our tackles are not just, I'm guess the way I'm looking at it is that they're going to get better with experience, whereas I also don't know if even with the experience, if the talent level at the tackle is good enough to beat Michigan, just because I just don't think the tackles are very good, especially the left tackle. But I mean, he doesn't have to be an all-star. He just needs to be good enough to not blow the game, and then hopefully the rest of them come together enough to have a competent, balanced attack, which I think they will by the end of the year. And there's only two threats left on the schedule. It's Penn State and it's Michigan. That's it.
Yeah,
So,
right. And they're spaced out.
And I think Michigan's a much bigger threat than Penn State, in my opinion. So I don't know.
I think you might be right about that. I might be. I think Penn State is definitely a threat. It's going to be scary, actually. For
Michigan. I mean, I'm just worried about Penn State defense. I think their offense is way overrated. I don't think their offense is that good.
Yeah, it might be. We'll see. We'll see in 2 weeks. That's awesome. I think that.
No, we have a bye week this week. So.
Oh, do you? So it's 3 weeks. Okay.
Yeah. We have a bye week, then we have Maryland, then we have Penn State, I think. So.
All I know is Blake Corum is itching to play the Buckeyes after what happened last year. And probably after noticing that Notre Dame game, he is itching. That's one thing I'm really excited to see, because we didn't get to see it last year. And it was so hyped up all year long. Hopefully everyone stays healthy. Buckeyes don't lose. Michigan doesn't lose. And we get another undefeated Michigan versus Ohio State. We actually get to see Blake Corum.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're talking a lot about Ohio State this time, but what is going on with your backup running back? Why is he getting 2 yards a carry in most of his games?
Who knows?
Donovan Edwards is completely. I mean, was he a product of just a great offensive line giving him huge holes? So he's really fast, and when he gets through the hole, he can make the big home run. And since your center is average this year compared to the All-American best center in the country you had last year, losing him now means that you need a running back that can break tackles like Corum.
I don't know. I mean, last year he had the last couple games were fantastic for him before the bowl game. So against Ohio State, he was fantastic, mostly on 2 plays, but pretty spotty otherwise. Then he had a good game against Purdue. And then we played TCU, and he didn't do very well at all. The offensive line didn't do very well at all. I'm convinced if we had Blake Corum against TCU, if we had them both, much different outcome against TCU. I think Blake Corum's awesome. He's a better pure running back than Donovan Edwards. Even if Edwards ends up going first, above him in the draft, Blake Corum is awesome. The moves he makes in the hole are just amazing. He's got that short, squatty, legs are huge. He's got such good shiftiness. Not breakaway, not breakaway speed, but man, he is so productive. I can't wait to see that game. Get me all excited.
It's funny. Who Penn State plays before us? They play Northwestern, then UMass. What a joke. That's 2 bye weeks before they play us, basically. I can't hear you.
Crap, I muted the call.
There you
go. Yeah, Brian's right. Everyone can run the ball but Donovan. It's even our third-string running back was having great success at the end of the game yesterday against Rutgers. Big dude, just running up the middle. I don't know what's up with Donovan. Yeah, maybe he's not seeing the hole. I mean, maybe that's it. Donovan isn't seeing it, but I mean, God.
He was ridiculous last year. Against us, he had one hand and he was still able to make catches and ridiculous runs.
Yeah, so you guys played a poo-poo defense. He busted out for 2 plays, and he actually did have a good game. I mean, there was a couple drives where he was having a lot of success, mostly in the second half.
Yeah,
but we'll have to find out. And
are you guys a little bit worried about with as elite as your defense is, your offense has still been really average so far this year?
Not really. I mean, they're just built that way. They only played 40 plays again. 44.
Your running game was twice as good last year, in my opinion. You were just completely. Do you not remember how much more you dominated on the ground last year than this year?
I don't know. I don't think that we really did.
I don't think dude, you're running. I'll pull it up for the next episode. I guarantee your yards per game on the ground and average were probably way higher at this point last year.
We're definitely throwing a lot better this year.
Yeah.
It might be just them trying to be more
Aside
balanced.
from Bowling Green.
Because everyone's used to seeing Blake Corum just rip 15-yard runs a ton and get close to 200 yards, and they're just not doing that. They're trying to be more balanced. And yeah, the clock rules. The clock rules. You're right, Brian. That it does have some.
I can't stand the clock rules. It's just an abomination.
And Michigan is using that to what they consider their advantage anyway. I mean, the type of Michigan team, that game was only 3 hours yesterday with all the commercials. Like Michigan's game was like 3 hours long because I recorded it. Man.
Yeah, I mean, you look at most of the games, in the top were relatively, like, no one put up huge scores except for, like, Oregon and Washington. I mean, the Pac-12 seems to be the only ones with crazy offenses. USC had 42, Washington 59, Oregon 42.
Yeah, you can do it if you want to.
Yeah.
Michigan doesn't want to. They don't care about the score. And, I mean, they looked bad last year in some games they probably shouldn't have, but ended up pretty good. So I'm not concerned about it yet because I know that was your question on offense. But JJ bounced back, no interceptions. And he looked better against actually a much better defense than Bowling Green. Good completions, good.
So what do we think the rank? What do you think about the rank? I don't know if you saw the AP and the coaches poll.
I don't know.
Ohio
Let's talk about that. I know
Ohio State's third. Yeah, we're third in the coaches poll and fourth in the AP, and you guys are still second and Georgia first. But yeah, I just think it's so hard to tell this early. Even I was saying the same thing last week. We still have so many unknowns. I mean, if you look all the way down at the bottom, I mean, we have Miami, Duke, undefeated, and both are looking really good. I'm really curious to see how Miami and Duke do this year. Duke plays Notre Dame next week, so that's going to be a low-key, really interesting game to see, what happens there. The USC is, their offense is great as usual, but man, their defense looks bad. And then Oregon, Colorado was due to get destroyed, but
yeah,
Oregon's looking pretty good. I mean, they're only 9. They could easily be the best team. We just don't know yet because there hasn't been any very, very few marquee matchups so far this year. So hopefully we can, figure that out. I mean, we're at the point right now where Duke could be a top 5 team. We don't know. I mean, they're ranked 17 now, but they could be beating Notre Dame next week, and
they're not a top 5 team.
They look really good. They destroyed Clemson. Clemson's elite, right?
Yeah. Well, Clemson is elite.
They were a missed field goal from taking down a top 5 Florida State.
Oh yeah. There was some crying over in Clemson for sure. All right, well, let's wrap it up. Thanks everyone. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching the show, Matt. We will talk again very, very soon about the Buckeyes in Michigan. So go blue.
Go Bucks. OH.
Go blow.